My dad says that my biggest talent is that I never stop talking, so this goes out to you! Hey guys, it's Amy here, back again with another video. Dialogue makes up a majority of modern literature and the ways that we develop our stories and our worlds. It is that much more crucial that we get it right, and that much more likely that someone's gonna get very paranoid about getting it right. Boring dialogue can ruin a story, and there are multiple ways in which bad dialogue can actually ruin it. Trust me, dialogue has made me rate books up to 2 stars less than what I thought they'd actually be worth. And in some cases, straight up did not finish them. And hey, because I'm a professional talker, we're gonna be talking about how you can fix your dialogue up. We've got 7 ways to make your dialogue from boring into spectacular. The last 3 in ways that you would never expect. But before we talk, then you should hit that subscribe button and like this video. I post new videos every weekend on writing, books, and digital content for authors. If you want to be the first to know of anything going on in the Amy Rosenfeld world, then you should subscribe to my newsletter down in the description via my website. I post updates at the start of every month of things going on in my own world and events that are happening on my platforms and my book life too. Now, before I get breathless, we should probably talk about, the actual topic of the video. Let's make that dialogue not so boring. Number 1, cut the small talk. There is a reason that people hate small talk in real life. It's just the same stuff to different people, over and over again, sometimes rehashing the same things with the same people. Who is really interested in how the weather is? I know I'm not. Small talk is the number 1 way to slow down any scene. How many times has asking people how they have been and what they've been up to in the past couple of weeks actually plot relevant? If the characters are prominent enough in the stories, then we need to skip those formalities. You can just tell instead of show how the conversation started before they got to that very specific point. Establish how they're meeting before we get to the true why of why they're meeting. The really engaging pieces of dialogue. Number 2, let the body talk. I have a video coming out discussing this topic in much more detail, but for now we're just going to touch on the basics. There is a reason that during phone calls, text messages, and Zoom meetings, we don't fully understand or comprehend what a person may be saying. It's because the way the person acts adds so much more to what we're saying than you think. Trust me, I learned from the best.
Don't underestimate the importance of body language.
Body language does so much more to show conversation than even tone does. The way a person is standing, how they use their hands, their expressions, basically a lot. You can easily swap out an obvious part of a conversation for some body language. This could be a good thing to do while you're editing, is to go through any pieces of dialogue that you have and see if the same thing can be said in a way a person acts, rather than how they speak. An example can be that instead of someone saying that they are uncomfortable with an idea outright, you can just show their body becoming uncomfortable, how they're tensing up, where they are looking, what they're doing with their hands. And keep in mind that each character has got unique ways of doing this too. You're going to be able to get your point across a lot better using body language. Don't just replace an entire conversation with just expressions. I don't think that's going to bode well, but if you are able to do that effectively and people can understand you, you deserve a medal. Number 3, base the conversation around an activity. We may enjoy just sitting down and talking about an in-depth topic for a while. I do a lot. It's like one of my favorite activities to do with some of my closest friends, just sit and talk. But as a reader, this is not necessarily what we want. It can take us out of the conversation, even though it's the only thing being given to you. Pretty ironic, right? So we can instead put a scene or an activity around the dialogue to help improve it. It can give us more to focus on, and it can provide some of that body language. See what I did there? As a person is doing an activity. Cooking dinner when your partner has just dumped you, for example. Your best friend is there to support you as you cry while hacking into a lettuce pretending that it's the head of your ex. Is that what people actually do? I wouldn't know. I've never done it. But this can give you a lot more to think about while the scene is being described, rather than just two people sitting at a table and talking to each other. Number 4, consider the environment. Setting can do a lot towards a scene. Anyone who loves or has studied film should know this. Much like an activity, people can use and interact with the environment as they're talking. But just as much can be said about where a person is within a certain environment. How close they are sitting between people at a dinner table. Whether they are moving from room to room as the conversation is going on, and how they are moving from room to room. Are they fiddling with anything in the conversation? Are they looking at anything except for the person during this conversation? This can really spice up a walk and talk. Number 5, put it somewhere else. Leading off of that, if your conversation isn't making an impact, but it still needs to be had, maybe the place that you're having this conversation isn't quite the place where it should be. I should know, I desperately need to do it for my own novel. One of these could be that the setting of your conversation is wrong. Dynamics of different settings and how people interact with it can really change the mood and the impact of a scene. One scene, which at its root is dialogue, is the dinner scene from Shrek 2. It works so well and it feels so tense and comedic as a dinner scene because it is a familiar place in which family tensions and family conversations arise. And the characters are able to interact with the dinner to be able to emphasize their points. Now, if we put that scene instead into a tour of the palace in which Fiona's parents live, it would never hit the same. Maybe the same could be said for a scene that you are writing. What kind of situation would better suit your dialogue scene in a thematic sense? Think of the emotion that you want to portray in that scene and find a real-life scenario in which you have felt that way before, and other people have felt that way too. Does that work better? Number 6. Put it sometime else. Yes, these final 3 points are going to be following this pattern. I am a genius with these names. Your conversation may not be hitting as hard because you set it at the wrong time of the story. Trust me, narrative beats mean absolutely everything. There is a reason that the darkest moment comes before the climax. It's to get the biggest emotional hits one after the other. Your crucial conversation may be far more impactful and have much more meaning if it's set at a different time during the story. The context and the characters within the scene can end up improving it a lot if they change, because everything gets reshaped as to what happened before and after. I'm personally finding this useful when it comes to my characters having their first kiss, and of course the dialogue surrounding it. I initially found 3 potential places where it could happen, but I settled for the latter because it ended up having the strongest emotional core there. And the other ones were still very sweet and built up the relationship in different ways, but the final version that I have decided worked better. And also it was a bonfire scene. I just had to get that bonfire kiss. Number 7, have it with someone else. This was literally something that happened in behind the scenes of the Princess Diaries movie. There were 2 scenes in which Mia revealed her princess makeover, but only one of them made it to film. The first scene was shown to her mum and her new boyfriend at the time, which was, I think, one of Mia's teachers. It's been a while since I've seen it. Her mother was very shocked and impressed, but the stronger reaction was when Mia showed her best friend. That was powerful. Her friend was so disgusted, thinking that Mia had become some kind of fake plastic person, that Mia herself ended up crying. The bigger emotional impact with that character made that scene stick in the film and the scene with the mum get removed from the film. So maybe if your dialogue was boring, you're having it with the wrong person. They're not having the right reactions or reassurances with their scene partner to have this make sense. We want to get character development and reactions out of these characters. And having a neutral or predictable reaction is boring for all the parties involved. Wouldn't it be better to have a character visibly doubt what is being said, suddenly get excited, have an argument or breakdown happen at the end of it? Gosh, another sign that I enjoy torturing my characters. Of course, you don't have to go for drama or conflict to be able to get a good dialogue scene. But if you can work out a better person to have this conversation with, it can end up reshaping your entire scene into something far more powerful. And those are my 7 tricks to get your dialogue from boring into bedazzling. If you have any more, then please list them down in the comments below. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new around here. You can ring that bell to find out when I post more creative content. ASTER'S CODA Exposure is available for you to buy in the description right now. The fantasy version of Men in Black is waiting for you. And be sure to also check in my description for my Instagram, my TikTok, my Fiverr, and my website. Stay creative, everybody, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.